Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I hope you all are doing great and are in the best state of health and iman, and your Ramadan is going productive. So, we are going to have a webinar on faith and education, how religious organizations can empower and transform learning. By our honorable speaker, Brother Wajihuddin. Before we start, I'll give a short intro about myself and my co-host. I'm Asma Kurai and I'm doing BS in psychology from IUU, and I'm serving as a vice chairperson for the Sindh Student Committee. And my co-host, Sister Sahar, she is the chairperson of IUU Sindh region, and she is doing a master's in Islamic studies. Um, So let's take a moment to talk about IOU. The International Open University was established in 2007 by Dr. Bilal Phillips. It's a private online distance learning institution based in the Gambia, offering affordable undergraduate and graduate programs. IUU aims to make authentic Islamic knowledge accessible globally through the internet, striving to empower individuals and communities by providing equal opportunities for all students. And we have programs like Islamic studies, psychology, business administration, information technology, Arabic language, economics and finance education. And uh, IUU also offers some short courses like Quran memorization and Tajweed and general diploma in Islamic studies as well. For now, I'll hand over to Sister Sahar so she can introduce Brother Taha Shah.
Assalamualaikum everyone. This is Brother Taha Shah. He is deaf, but he joined IAU and he's in the 3rd semester. After joining IAU, he informed us that IAU is teaching the correct Islam. We went to his house, and this is how we met him. This Eid Mela, after Eid on 5th April, we are having an Eid Mela, and we are bringing Taha Shah, and will be having a live hosting with him and take an interview with him about his life, about how he is studying and what kind of difficulties he's facing, inshallah. So we hope that you all join us on Eid Mela. Back to Sister Asma.
Oh, let me share my screen again. One second. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so I'm really happy to have our honorable speaker with us, Brother Wajihuddin. So let me give a short introduction about himself as well. So Brother Wajihuddin is an inspiring educator and leader with a strong foundation in Islamic knowledge and youth development. He holds a master's degree in Islamic studies from the University of Karachi, reflecting his commitment to promoting authentic Islamic values. With over 18 years of teaching experience, he has taught subjects like Islamic studies, economics, and business ethics, blending academic knowledge with moral and spiritual insights. As a regional head of Sindh at Youth Club, he plays a vital role in guiding and empowering young Muslims to connect with their faith, cultivate positive character, and navigate modern challenges through an Islamic lens. His efforts extend beyond classrooms and events as he actively engages with youth on social media platforms, spreading motivational content infused with Islamic principles. Alongside his Islamic education, Brother Wajihuddin also holds a bachelor's degree in computer science and an MBA in human resources management from the Institute of Business Management. This diverse educational background equips him with a balanced perspective, merging technical and religious knowledge to address the multifaceted needs of today's youth. His ability to bridge the gap between modern education and Islamic values continues to make a lasting impact on the community, encouraging young people to embrace faith-driven personal and professional growth. And now I'll hand over this session to Brother Wajihuddin, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan, sisters. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Alhamdulillah, I thank IOU for being able to give me this opportunity to be able to speak to you regarding a very important topic. And one of the dilemmas of the Muslim Ummah today is not being able to meet the challenges of the educational sector and realizing how education has become more of a commercial aspect. We do understand how things are becoming more and more complicated for our upcoming generation. So I hope you guys can hear me clearly because I'm not sure because of the internet. So I would want to be able to make sure
Yes,
that
Alhamdulillah, we can.
take it. Okay. I just received a message that my voice was low, so I wanted to be able to confirm it. So my point of the my point of giving this the attention to this topic is the reason why we need to be able to understand that we need to be able to develop a platform and be able to meet the challenges of the coming generation and be able to provide them with an education system which can enable them to become a strong ummah as a whole. But before that, of course, some highlights of what Islam talks about and how Islam talks about the importance of education. We have heard it multiple times. We do understand that Islam highlights the importance of education enormously. The first verses which were revealed regarding, the emphasis on knowledge, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq," talks about education, where some scholars have highlighted the importance of reading and learning, and that there was no concept of worldly education and religious education, the separation of religious and worldly education amongst the Muslim scholars. Unfortunately, we have made it so commercial that people have only focused on acquiring education in the name of education only for the sake of being able to get some money or earn some money. Whereas Islam talks about where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilman, sahhala Allahu lahu tariqan ila al-jannah." That whoever intends to seek knowledge or walks the path of knowledge to be able to gain, the ilm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes his way easier towards Jannah. And this is why we're here. We need to be able to understand why we need to seek knowledge. The idea of seeking knowledge is to be able to elevate ourselves, to be able to realize what our liberation is all about. If a person is not going to be well educated, anybody in the name of religion can actually be able to misguide them. For example, it happens in our society where somebody might be sick, somebody might be able to think that they are afflicted with ayn, evil eye, or sihr, black magic, and they might end up in the hands of the wrong person, with the wrong creed, with the wrong aqidah. and they might misguide them to be able to go to a grave or be able to ask the dead person or be able to do certain things which are forbidden in Islam or be able to not focus on prayer or maybe use the Quran in the wrong manner, which is forbidden. If a person is not going to have the right education or awareness regarding what his beliefs or her beliefs require him to do, they would end up being able to do the wrong thing and displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same time, not being able to know what is right and what is wrong, they might enter a field of science, they might enter in a field of marketing, they might enter into the field of finance and not be able to differentiate between halal and haram. What would make them closer to Allah? What would make them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the very idea of knowledge in Islam is to be able to understand truly what is beneficial for you in this world, but more importantly, what is beneficial for you in the hereafter, because this world is temporary. It is going to be temporary. Whatever is going to be in this world is temporary, whereas the hereafter is going to be forever. And that is what we are constantly emphasizing upon, and how Islam concentrates towards making that core value based on the Quran and Sunnah to be in line with whatever a person is focusing on, whether they're into business, whether they're into art, whether they're into finance, any other aspect. Their umbrella has to be the Quran and Sunnah. And under that umbrella, they have to be able to focus. But when we talk about the emphasis, yes, we agree that Islam is not only teaching us about rituals. It's just not focusing on salah, prayers. It's not just focusing on zakah. It's not just focusing on siyam. But it's a deen. It focuses on making sure that our entire life revolves around the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we hear the verses, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, the very existence of jinns and humans is nothing but to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does not have to be limited towards prayers, does not have to be limited towards siyam, does not have to be limited towards hajj, but their entire life has to be under the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that can only happen when one knows how to be able to live their lives, how to be able to take care of their body, how to be able to take care of their spirit, how to be able to develop their mindset according to the thought process, according to the very vision Islam has given them. Unfortunately, coming back to the very problem, how the education system around us was formulated in the 19th century when the whole colonialism took over the world, and how people were focusing more towards certain skill sets, math, English, science. The entire education system was developed in order to be able to produce factory workers, to be able to focus on a skill set. And that, leading towards the lack of tarbiyah, the lack of adab, the lack of moral teaching, the very focus of separating God from the system, and God being limited to mosque, worship places, where education, which was meant to benefit us in the hereafter, was not so beneficial in terms of the capitalist system, which was focusing towards making more and more money, utilizing the skill set and be able to capitalize over it and be able to make sure that people are contributing towards making the economy flourish further. And when that happened, people sidelined that very the education which is meant to develop the morality of the human beings. And hence, it was not able to monetize. Nobody can monetize the very idea of being able to pray because it focuses towards hereafter. But when a person is able to earn a different skill set, this very concept of education led towards the very demarcation of religious education and worldly education, where people were focusing more towards it because it was beneficial. People were able to live and upgrade their lifestyles. People were able to upgrade their living. They were able to have a more ostentatious lifestyle in front of other people. Hence, the value was given more towards it. And when the more opportunities came up with this kind of education, people were more focusing towards it. Hence, now the result is that we have organizations being able to struggle, trying to be able to make people understand why they need to understand the teachings of Quran, why they need to understand the teachings of Islam, and be able to focus towards it. And people are like, why should I be able to invest in it when it is not going to be able to give me any monetary benefit? Where are my struggles, my lifestyle, and the whole idea of society where everybody is competing with one another to be able to buy things, to be able to show, and now how social media is now cultivating the mindset of our younger generation to be able to make their lives be uh, based on the value of materialistic gain. And people are focusing more and more towards it. And when this mindset is acquired, people would not focus towards their hereafter. And we need to be able to focus it again towards and be able to make sure our main focus is towards enriching the mindset of the younger a lot to be able to make sure the Ummah understands that they have a much bigger role to perform in this world than to be able to become rich and be able to only become wealthy and become forgetful towards the hereafter. Organizations need to be able to work towards a much bigger scale. We need to understand that in the historical perspective, first we understood the very concept of the importance of knowledge. We are very well aware of it. We understand that a person is going to be more a person of integrity in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on knowledge. And how we've been taught more and more to be able to acquire religious education as well as worldly education, because that is the very combination a person is going to be able to compete in this world, not just in this world, but also in the hereafter. But at the same time, we need to understand the very problem that is around us, the education system. If you go to any institute, I've been teaching more than around 20 years in this education system. I've taught at different universities. I've taught in top universities, top schools. The problem is the same. People are running towards being able to either go abroad, get a good job in the corporations, being able to set up their business where they can actually be able to earn and have a good lifestyle and be able to earn more respect through worldly possessions. The whole system is cultivating the minds of a younger lot that your value is going to be good and high in this society when you have materialistic things with you, when you're going to have a big six-figure bank account, when you are going to be known in front of people, when you're going to have a lot of influence in the society in terms of followers, in terms of YouTube subscribers. That is when your real worth is going to be. Whereas Islam focuses that your real worth, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that we made the children of Adam respectful. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَالْأُنثَىٰ وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعْارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we've created you from one man, one woman. We've made you to tribes and nations so that you may recognize one another. Indeed, the most respectful amongst you is the one who is a person of piety, where their piety ensures that they are contributing towards themselves, towards their household, as well as towards the society, working towards making society beneficial. Just like IOU and other organizations focus towards making sure that the right understanding of religion has to be there. A concept of tasfiya and tarbiyah, where people get to be able to know the right version of Islam. What does the Quran and Sunnah talks about it, rather than being able to just learn Islam based on hearsay, through social media, through televisions, or maybe what they've been told as a child. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be able to educate themselves, read the teachings of the Quran, not to be able to stay ignorant from the translation of the Quran, to be able to learn the life of the Prophet, to see what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to say regarding certain ahkam, and be able to educate themselves, invest themselves. But we don't find these teachings being taught in schools, because it's not the kind of skill set which is supportive of the very system, which is highly focusing towards economic gain, towards materialistic gains, towards increase in wealth. Because at the end of the day, if you're a good person in the sight of God, how does that benefit the society? So skill sets which were more towards jobs, towards industrialization, supporting industrialization, towards economic growth in terms of business. These are the subjects which are mostly focused over there. And the value of these subjects are given more importance. Students rush towards tuition centers, which are giving high pricely tuitions regarding the subjects so that students can get good grades in CIEs. They want to be able to get good grades in CIEs so that they can actually be able to get admissions in universities abroad, be able to associate good names like Yale and Harvard along with their names. And that's a good thing if you study abroad. It's going to open your mindset. It's going to open your perspectives. It's going to give you more exposure. But at the end of the day, if you don't work for your hereafter, if you don't work towards your hereafter, if you are not a person who is beloved in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all these efforts are going to be in vain. Because at the end of the day, the world is going to end. All these efforts are going to be limited. And you would be regretful of the fact that in the hereafter, I have to be able to gash in what I can, but they all ended up with the with the world, with this dunya. So we look at the historical perspective and how education was more of an integration of the secular studies, which we call the secular studies, as well as the religious education, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Alaq and Surah Alaq that اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. The two iqra mentioned over here, where some scholars have actually highlighted that they focus on that one is that what Allah has revealed in the form of revelation, whereas the other iqra is towards being able to understand the worldly education, be able to empower yourself so that you are not unaware. You're not only going to be a Muslim who is well educated, but somebody who's not going to be limited to the literal understanding of religion. He's not going to be a literalist who's going to have a hands-on practice of the real world, what is going to happen, what is happening in the real world. So the scholars of the past were more or less well aware of how business transactions was made. If you look at the life of Imam Shafi'i, we look at the life of Imam Bukhari, we look at the life of Imam Abu Hanifa, we look at the life of Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. They were well aware of the things happening in their world, the political situations, the business community challenges, the educational challenges, the very idea of how the society was going through. Rather than being able to confine yourself in a box and be able to only read books and not being able to understand how those teachings are going to be applied. And that is where IOU plays a very important role, where IOU is making sure that you are also try and learn psychology under the umbrella of Quran and Sunnah. Your core understanding of psychology has to be there so that you do not deviate and consider every statement of psychology to be ultimate, because your focus of learning philosophy is going to be with regards to making that this dunya is not the ultimate criteria, but also looking at it mainly from the hereafter perspective. So we look at what the scholarship was basically focusing on, and it was actually being able to unifying the worldly education. This is where the Islamic organizations play an important role, because unfortunately, to be able to create or establish universities and schools is more of a challenge, where faith-based organizations can actually, on limited opportunity, based on limited opportunities, can actually play a very important role. They can actually reach out to a lot of audience. They can actually be able to develop a curriculum. They can actually be able to be flexible in terms of offering certain courses to people who can actually be able to get awareness regarding their religion. There was a working class who might be in the hush-hush lifestyle, and looking at this perspective, this is why I highlighted this, that the life has become so restricted, even for the Muslims, that they're in that rat race. They want to be able to learn regarding religions, but they don't get the time to. They're in the 9-to-5 job, where it's not just 9-to-5, it's also 9-to-8. And at times it's just they only get times in weekends, and they want to be able to relax with families. to be able to come up with online resources, to be able to come up with online books at a very reasonable cost, so that they can also be able to maintain their expenses and be able to provide them with a quality-based education. At the same time, organizations working on ground can provide a source of community building towards the youth as well as the families, to be able to provide them with education, because the teachers, the parents, as well as the students, they make up that triangle to be able to uh, work together so that the community can actually become stronger in terms of spiritual aspects. People are unable to realize regarding their physical aspect, how they need to be able to focus towards it, as well as towards their mental health. We see a lot of Muslims, because of their lack of understanding of psychology, of depression, of Quranic sources, and more being affected towards the problems of this world, are getting afflicted with mental illness. At the same time, they're unable to give importance to their body, how they need to eat, when they need to eat, how they need to be able to focus on a healthy body. Because at the end of the day, this is also a blessing and a ni'mah, and they need to be able to take care of it. Also, the most important aspect is your existence, which is your spirit, how to be able to nourish it. Why is it important for you to be able to do so? Whereas the secular education does not provide you with these answers, where they do not recognize the existence of spirit, where they do have theories regarding life, regarding death, but they do not have any ultimate answers, where these answers can only come from the Creator, where He tells you and informs you beforehand and warns you that you have to be able to prepare for your hereafter, where that regret is going to be irreversible. And as long as you're alive, you've been sent in this world with a purpose. These organizations work towards making a pedagogy which is going to instill amongst the youth the very lifestyle of those who were before us, not just the companions, not just the prophets, but to be able to inspire people through the lives of famous personalities, from scholars of the early centuries, where people and our kids need to be able to know more, because right now their personalities and the criteria are footballers, celebrities. They're inspired by people who are, in the business world, like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. They are, running after people and being able to mimic them, but not being able to understand that these people are not their ideals. They're not the benchmark they need to be able to focus. These people are themselves disturbed within themselves. So these organizations can actually be able to educate people regarding not just the companions, but regarding inspiring personalities, so that they can actually relate to them and be able to understand, yes, even in this time, I can actually be able to become a sort of example, where it's not just about me being 100% pure, but regardless of how many mistakes I've made, there have been people, for instance, the life of Fudail bin Iyad. He was a highway robber, and he realized, he heard the recitation of the Quran in the middle of the night when he was walking towards committing a disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he heard the very verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he realized that, Allah is making me hear these verses. I need to change my life. And the person from, a very sinful life actually became the Imam of the two holy mosques. And there is no book of Tazkiyah where his name is not in, statements are not mentioned. People who were able to acquire a position and be able to write books, be able to read them, be able to read their history, be able to inspire, educate the educated lot, to be able to tell our younger people that these footballers are not your ideals. These personalities who were able to inspire and change the lives of millions and billions of people, even after they're gone from this world, we need to be able to inculcate these learnings. Conditionally, the madrasas right now are playing a very important role, but at the same time, they're unable to meet the challenges, which is the reality we need to be able to face, because the gap is so much that a person who wants to learn a religious education cannot find time to be able to dedicate himself or herself in the madrasa full time. And that is why many of them are actually resorting to YouTube, and where they can open a YouTube channel and be able to not be sure about what they're learning from YouTube. Anybody with more millions of subscribers can actually be teaching them the wrong perception of Islam, not being able to have the right understanding, where one video which can go viral can actually create a lot of misconceptions about people and not being able to know other scholars' opinions and might consider what they were doing to be wrong. And people might just believe in it because a lot of people have watched these videos and the following is about in millions. But people need to be taught religion from the right manner, where they need to understand that, yes, these YouTube channels, these social media platforms are a good source of information, but the right way of acquiring education is to be able to sit in the company of the scholars. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam learned this, the Quranic understanding from Jibreel alayhi salam. And it was passed on from Jibreel salam to the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Sahabas learned this religion in the company of the Prophet sallam, passed on from the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the heart of Sahaba. And the Sahaba taught the Tabi'een in their company. It was not just the literal understanding of religion, but also the spiritual aspect of the religion, to be able to know the hikmah behind it. And that is why the education institutes need to focus towards tarbiyah. And tarbiyah is not just being able to give a 1-hour session, to be able to give lectures, but to be able to create a relationship with your students where you teach them how to be able to behave. And that is why when the example which comes to my mind is Imam Shafi, where his mother actually sent Imam Shafi to learn from Imam Malik. And Imam Malik taught him for for a certain period of time. And Imam Shafi went back to his mother, wearing the turban, good clothes, and gave the glad tidings to his mother that I've learned knowledge and manners. And the mother said, no, you still haven't learned knowledge yet. Go back and learn knowledge. And when he went to Imam Malik and he said, my mother said this, so Imam Malik said, now go to your mother and tell her that I've learned manners and knowledge. And when he went to his mother and said, I've learned manners and knowledge, his mother said, now you've acquired knowledge, because you learn manners before knowledge. You learn adab before ilm. If you just acquire ilm, you do not have adab, you would be a burden on this, because you would become arrogant. You would not respect the opinion of other scholars. You would not respect other people having no knowledge. You would not be able to teach the other people in the right manner. So learning was not only limited to rote learning. And that is why organizations and institutes like IOU, Youth Club, and other organizations need to understand that we are not only teaching bookish understanding of knowledge, but to be able to understand the very essence and spirit of the knowledge, where they need to understand that it has to be a change through the heart and not just the appearance. And people need to be able to contribute to the society and allow people's hearts to change. Because until and unless the love of Allah and love of Rasulullah is not going to enter into the hearts of the people, their heart is not going to change. And we need to inculcate this in our education system. And this is where religious organizations come and play an important role. Like, for instance, what we do at Youth Club is be able to go to different universities, be able to connect with the youth, give them inspiring lectures, and then ask them to be able to connect with us. And when they connect with us, we ask them to be able to come to certain halakas where it can be Quranic translation, it can be Seerah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it can be Arba'in and Nawawi, the 40 ahadith lessons, it can be different masail from certain scholars they might be able to attend and learn. But at the same time, we also then ask them to be able to gradually acquire a 1-year course. And then we do the 1-year course. Then we ask them to be able to connect with scholars, to be able to move one step ahead and be able to acquire, the academic understanding of being able to learn Arabic, to be able to learn Quranic Arabic, and so on. And just like IOU has a proper bachelor's degree, master's degree in different fields, to be able to provide people this platform based on the convenience, because now they have mobiles with them, they have their laptops with them, they have their iPads with them. They will be able to conveniently access this information. But for that, they need to also understand that this is a platform which provides them with the right understanding and the right creed, the right essence of Islam rather than just joining any other source. So, although this was the role of the universities, but somehow the other with understanding how things have become so commercial and things have become more or less towards the materialistic gain, organizations can go to these universities, market these courses, allow them to be able to get some scholarship through them, through these courses, being able to get some recognition, like for instance in Pakistan, to be able to get it recognized through HEC and be able to make sure that it can be cashed out with regards to, by the term I say cashed out, into converting it into a proper degree so that people can get into universities. And when they have this religious education, wherever they are going to go, they will play the important role of being able to bring people into the limelight of the religion and the right understanding. Because one person in an entire university can play an important role. Back in the days when I got a little bit of understanding of the religion and I realized that I have to leave my practice of Jahiliyyah and ignorance, the first thing which came to my mind is to be able to spread this light amongst other people. I established Islamic Society. I was also learning. I made sure that I called scholars for lectures. I made an effort, although the restrictions were there, to be able to call people towards prayers. Now, maybe it was not a big thing in the sight of people, but as one person establishing a society, Islamic Society, within my university, allowed many people to be able to join. And as many people were there, there's so many people who were able to take benefit from it, and they're still, able to remember that. So, and I'm sure there's so many brothers and sisters working out there based on their capacity, and we need to be able to reach out to these, or as an organization, we need to be able to reach out to these people. And this is exactly what we do at our place, that we make sure that these individuals are able to connect with the organizations, with these religious organizations, and be able to play an important role. Like they can call certain speakers towards the university, create an ilm fest, or maybe a session, or maybe a regular classes where these speakers can come and be able to teach the students the right understanding of religion, and be able to then connect them to platforms like IOU, Youth Club, and so on, and where they can actually be now connected through in the form of community. So we need to understand that, yes, at the same time, we need to be able to know religion through with regards to understanding and knowledge, but at the same time focusing towards keeping the tradition alive, to be able to make sure that the traditional methods of hifz and hadith, and be able to know the Arabic language and be able to know that this is the right process to be able to acquire ilm, and not just be able to read a few books and start talking about masail or issues. We need to be able to teach these manners to our kids, because unfortunately, by watching a few videos, they've been able to focus on differences and feel that they've empowered themselves with 20% of useless information, but not being able to work towards their own action. And that is why Imam Bukhari and all these people have, while collecting their hadith, the very first thing they talk about is that to be able to acquire the very idea that I am acquiring knowledge, not for the sake of loading myself with books, but to be able to bring my life into action. And that is what it matters. And the tradition which is attributed towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says that people before you, meaning before the Sahaba, a person was there who was able to memorize tons of books, and Allah informed the Prophet of that time to be able to let the person know that if this person was not able to bring these books and tons of learning into his action, then these learning of these books is not going to benefit him in any way. And that is why we need to understand that we are not just a person who be able to load it with information, because right now we have loads of amount of information through internet. Everything's out there, but our minds are becoming weaker and weaker because we're not able to process that information, because we're not able to sit down and be able to contemplate and be able to understand in-depth understanding of what the Quranic verses says. There's an entire TED talk out there where it talks about how due to the enormous amount of information, the brains have become weaker because they're not able to get a verse and be able to focus on it, understand the depth and the different things surrounding it. But rather they just jump from one information to another, and the mind gets loaded with information, but they're not able to process that information, not be able to internalize that information. So we need to be able to understand that how Islam, yes, it does talk about textual understanding, but at the same time, that textual understanding is not going to be beneficial if it's not going to bring you any action. And faith-based learning is something which was previously talked about. Our learning was not based on age group, but anybody based on that ability. So there were young companions who were able to advise the senior companions. They were able to spend more time with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they were able to advise more. So all of these aspects need to be understood that intellectually, some people have different capabilities, and they can be amongst different age groups based on the fact that how they're able to process it, and be able to understand that at the end of the day, we all have a role to play. And religious organizations need to be able to focus that each and every person who learns knowledge has to be able to give back to the society, has to be able to give back to the community, has to be able to empower themselves with learning so that they are able to become a pillar of knowledge and for their community, for their household, to be able to learn different techniques, to be able to spread this either through social media or either through classrooms, or either be able to connect with people in the social gathering and be able to become a kind of a network where they are able to work towards the character of society. Because at the end of the day, if the character development is not going to be there, the very same people are going to start using this knowledge for the sake of their personal gain, to be able to make themselves famous, to be able to earn money or followers, or be able to get a better lifestyle through this knowledge. Because if that aspect of piety, taqwa, consciousness is not going to be there, and the idea of practicing and be able to have that God consciousness, the fear of Allah, the love of Allah within their own heart, and not be able to be in a society which facilitates that, eventually they are going to get slip out, and shaitan is going to make them unfortunately get diverted from the real purpose. So we need to be able to keep a check on people and use these techniques in the classroom, like the STEM aspect. For instance, in Islamic schools, where generations are being focused towards science, math, economics, all these kind of fields. At the same time, all of them have to be under the umbrella of Quran, where teachers who are coming over here can talk about the scientific miracles and then relate it with God's existence and how God works, in the form of miracles. And the very miracle is our existence. And also, when they talk about math, how they can actually be able to understand through math the very beauty of the creation of God, and also through science and all these other subjects, through religious studies, they can actually integrate them and be able to make sure the students are able to get that understanding, so that when they go out as doctors, they are people who have a basic understanding of religion, where they're able to not convert their profession into something which is going to be a return on investment, what they've spent on their universities, but at the same time, they're able to have the very care for people because they know they have a responsibility to perform. And at the end of the day, they are going to be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the teacher and the student develops a relationship. So there are lots of things which can be highlighted over here. And I'm sure to be able to not give a mind map over here of how things need to be worked, we're all working in some way or the other towards these things based on our own capacity. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be 100%. But the idea is that we are eventually working towards creating a difference and learning at the same time, understanding what our society needs. And faith-based organizations, religious organizations need to be able to do that, understand the pulse of the nation, to be able to know what they want. They're not to be loaded with complexity. They need to be able to understand the very basic need for them to be able to understand their connection with God and be able to motivate them, to be able to instill within them the desire to be able to work towards Jannah, to be able to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not being able to end up in hellfire, that one day you are going to be questioned. And these organizations, not just by telling them these things, but also can work towards building a community, playing their important role in schools, nurseries, universities, being physically present over there, pull out students who are capable, pull out students who are academically doing in a very good manner, and be able to allow them to become part of these institutions and organizations, give them important roles, and allow them to be able to get more people in and be able to encourage critical thinking. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people understand that maybe Islam discourages critical thinking, but no, the critical thinking, which is going to help them come up with more ideas, with more solutions, rather than uh, having the attitude of questioning Islam. They should question about Islam to be able to get more answers, so that they can help people out, get rid of their doubts and the confusions, and be able to cater to challenges which is based on atheism. People might be confused about it, maybe some misconceptions in religion, maybe some scientific facts which seemingly, according to some people, are contradicting with the teachings of Islam, and they can actually be able to answer all of that. So all of these things have to be worked towards by these religious organizations, and mosque being the center of education, youth being the target, mainly the community development going to be there, where people can actually be able to develop schools, organize universities, connect them with the masjid, where masjid was not just a place to be able to pray, but also be able to connect and be able to make it a center of learning, center of critical thinking, learn from scholars, provide them with certain scholars to be able to empower them, develop new scholars, and be able to focus towards experiential learning, where people are able to have mentors, good mentors in society, who want their betterment not just of this world, but also the hereafter. So these are the very important things which can be done. I am sure there are other points as well. I've listed them down. I want to be able to highlight them, but it's pretty late. I would rather take your questions to be able to answer them and be able to consider your queries to be answered, rather than give you a mind map, but just to be able to focus on the fact that this is how we need to be able to understand the importance of knowledge. At the same time, the challenges that we may have because of the whole education system and the learning experience and the learning preference people have developed because of that. Because now screen time is there, iPads are there. A lot of people cannot focus, very much. So need to incorporate technology within our strategy. Need to be able to come up with short videos, not just courses, but short films, because now people are learning through visuals, and they can learn through visuals in a much better format. So these videos and these graphics, all of these can become a very important role to be able to talk about certain historical background without compromising the very requirement of uh, compromising on the personality depiction. But we can actually be able to teach children, come up with cartoon characters which are based on piety, purity, serving the community, sacrifice, knowledge, health based. All of these aspects can be done and be able to do them in a creative manner, so that our children can actually be able to grow up and nourish based on these values. And eventually, that is what is going to lead us towards a different community. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask, so that we can actually answer your queries. I would like the sisters to be able to let me know if there are any questions out there, so that we can actually answer them, or if there are any concerns or any aspect which I may have forgotten not to highlight. Please feel free to ask or be able to highlight it, so that I can actually focus on it more. Yes, sisters, any questions out there on the platform? Please feel free to share with me.
Sister Asma? Jazakallah khairan, Brother Wajihuddin, for such an incredible session. Let me have a look if we have any questions. Um,
I think all IU related questions have been answered, and there are
yes. Yeah, we don't have any questions at the moment. So the viewers can watch these previously recorded sessions as well. And one thing that was really important, we are doing a Eid Mela for families on 5th April, inshallah. So feel free to come with your families, friends, and siblings. So this was something we wanted to highlight as well. And if you have any questions, you can visit the website or email us, and then there are like these are contact numbers, and you can contact them. So this was all. Jazakallah khairan kathiran. Brother Wajiuddin, please recite the dua so we can end the session.
Jazakallah khairan, sister, for this session, to be able to give me this opportunity. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be able to acquire knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be able to be sincere and be able to work towards this religion so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can consider us to be amongst his soldiers, amongst his worthy people. And may Allah give barakah in our wealth, in our knowledge, in our time, and allow us to be able to realize that the true success is to be able to work for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to sincerely work towards this cause. And at the end of the day, this is what is going to truly bring us salvation. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته